What's going on, everybody? The UFC goes to Baku, Azerbaijan this weekend following a very fun and exciting and profitable Apex card for the likes of myself and hopefully all of you watching this. So not so early as rising for, UFC Perth and UFC Macau, where we had to get up, at 4, whatever it was. I overslept the first fight at Perth. I stayed up and got to watch all of them at Macau. And I was actually feeling pretty good. But this card, I believe, starts at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So, to some people, that might be a pretty regular early rising time or regular rising time. For me, that's a little bit early for Saturdays. But I'm excited. I will be up and watching all of these. And hopefully we have back-to-back really good cards, all right? So this is just going to be my official picks. Again, I'm still pretty busy. My old lady's moving in this weekend, so I'm not going to have time to put out multiple videos. So we're just going to do the official picks here. Maybe, again, these videos I can promote a little bit better, right? And maybe get into the algorithm more. So I'll just do the official picks. You'll kind of get an insight what I'm looking to bet if you watch the break or listen to the breakdowns. But anyway, first fight of the night is one that was put together pretty recently and one that I'm not going to have a very technical breakdown on. Tahir Abdullayev versus Jefferson Nascimento. And I'm just going to take an underdog shot on Nascimento here. This fight is taking place at welterweight. I believe Nascimento is coming up from lightweight, so lighter man skill. And his opponent, I believe, is called the Tank. And he's kind of built like a tank for welterweight, sure, but I really don't think he's going to have great cardio at all. I think if Nascimento survives the first round, he's going to start to pick apart his opponent here and get a decision or late TKO win. And another thing for Nascimento, I really value that he's been at LFA for a while now. He's fought to 4th and 5th round decisions before. He's obviously gotten finishes. And he's taken this fight on 3 weeks' notice. So I would like to say that he's still in great shape. And now he was fighting at lightweight, I believe, now at welterweight. So, maybe he's not having to cut weight or whatever it might be the case. But yeah, I really think they're just putting this Abdullayev guy on this card because, obviously he's Azerbaijani. So, home card for him. And, he's definitely got some finishing upside. Of his 21 wins, 16 are by finish. But again, not really fighting in the best of promotions, and I just think the cardio side is going to be all in favor of Nascimento, and he's the underdog, so I'm just going to go with that. So not a very in-depth or technical breakdown, but I'm going to take Jefferson Nascimento for the first fight of the night. Next fight, this should be a good one. Jean Matsumoto and Beksat Almakhan. Beksat Almakhan gets a ton of credit, I think more than he deserves, for dropping Umar Nurmagomedov in his first fight. If you look at that fight, one judge scored it 30-25. The other two judged it 30-26 in favor of Umar. So that means one judge had 2 10-8 rounds. The other two had 1 10-8 rounds for Umar Nurmagomedov. Beksat Almakhan landed 3 significant strikes that whole fight. Just so happens that one of them dropped him. So yes, I'm not going to sit here and say giving him credit for dropping Umar Nurmagomedov isn't valid. It is, but I think people are overblowing a little bit too much. Now, with that being said, Beksat obviously has power, and at bantamweight, this could definitely translate for him. However, Matsumoto is super tough, and we've seen him dog out some really close fights, some that he's been on the other side of, like split decisions. Those fights against Farid Basharat and Rob Font could have arguably went the other way, and had they have gone his way, we'd be looking at him completely different at 19-0. So in this fight, yes, Beksat is going to have the power, but I don't like his volume at all. I think, he knocked out Brad Katona, but again, first round, didn't really have to employ a lot of volume. And against Alessandro Topuria, he got completely shut down. Now, Topuria is good, yes, but I just don't think Beksat Almakhan has enough volume at all to keep up with Jean Matsumoto. He might win a moment or maybe even drop Matsumoto, which might steal him around. So I think this fight could be close, and obviously the finishing upside is there for Beksat Almakhan. But I really think Matsumoto is going to keep the pressure going, land the more volume, maybe mix in some wrestling, and grind out another close decision. That's like his go-to method of victory is a close decision, but I think he gets it done here over Beksat Almakhan. Next fight is Daniil Donchenko and Theodor Berggren. He was supposed to be fighting Andres Gustafsson, but Gustafsson has since been released by the UFC due to heart condition, so all the best to him. Gustafsson was a marauder, a guy that liked to walk forward and fight you in the clinch. And now they're giving him another Swedish guy, and I think Donchenko is going to knock him out here. This guy Berggren has never been knocked out, but he's also never fought anywhere near the level of competition of Donchenko, who I think some people might be lower on after seeing him not knock out Alex Morono. But at the same time, he won every round of that fight despite being, blowing his load in the first round to try to get the finish of Alex Morono. And had that been different refs, it very well could have been stopped there in the first round. So I'm not going to knock him too much for not finishing a veteran like Alex Morono, who is super tough. I think Donchenko here does get the finish because I think this is just going to be a buzzsaw too much for Berggren to be able to deal with. And I think Donchenko, he's kind of like the guy in the main event of this fight where he's got that aggressive Muay Thai style, elbows and kicks coming at you. And I think he's going to just throw a storm at Berggren and get a finish here early. So I'm going to go Daniil Donchenko. He's 5-1 favorite, I think, for a reason. This has been the year of the big underdog, but I don't think we see one here, especially not a guy making his debut on short notice with an 8-3 professional record. So not that that's bad, but still, I think this is way too much too soon. Give me Donchenko by first round knockout. Next fight is Colin Offley and Javier Reyes. I've got some bias on this because Colin Offley absolutely robbed me when Yizha fought him, because Yizha had a 10-8 round in that. And somehow the judges saw Colin Offley winning that. Although the first round was close, the third round was kind of competitive, but I thought Yizha clearly win. Anyone you listen to or talk to that knows any idea what they're talking about will tell you that Yizha won that fight. So, did I bet on Yizha that night? Yes. Am I a little bit salty about that? Yes. But I still think Javier Reyes is the much more dangerous fighter here. Colin Offley might be more technically sound, but Javier Reyes is just going to come at you and look to knock your head off. And Colin Offley, to me, is a little bit chinny. Again, Yizha about got him out of there. I think Javier Reyes possesses a lot more power in the hands. And if this fight gets to the ground, he's got some nasty, nasty ground and pound. So, again, this is kind of a, bias type of spot. Javier Reyes came in, he got dropped by Douglas Silva de Andrade, but then rallied back and ended up finishing Silva de Andrade in the first round there. So, Javier Reyes, again, has a ton of experience outside of the UFC. He's very aggressive. I think Colin Offley, if he's not able to get to the back or get on top of Javier Reyes here, I think he's getting chinned. So give me Javier Reyes by knockout. And hopefully this time I'll be on the right side of a fucking Colin Offley fight, because that last one was absolute bullshit. Next fight is Nursultan Ruziboev and Andre Puliev. Andre Puliev in his last fight ran away from an Atebe Gautier for 15 minutes and actually outstruck Atebe Gautier. But he also got dropped multiple times in this fight. And I think some people maybe are overrating him a little bit for that. Now, Nursultan Ruziboev, I don't think is all that, despite the fact that he has a fuck ton of professional experience and he has a fuck ton of finishes on his record. I don't actually think he's all that great, but I do like him a lot more here at middleweight as opposed to when he dropped down to welterweight and he got beaten pretty soundly by guys like Joaquin Buckley. Back up here at middleweight, he's not exactly beating the best guys. It's not this dude's a world beater, but Andre Puliev, this is a guy whose best win right now is Nick Klein. So again, he's tough and he's great at what he does, kind of fighting on the back foot, dancing around, running away, so to speak, and kind of point style fighting. And then, if guys tire out, he kind of closes in on them and starts to do damage. That could definitely be a realm of victory or possibility here. And I do think because of that style, this fight will be close. I'm a little bit surprised that Ruziboev is 2-1, but I think he is going to get the job done here, 29-28. Maybe even an early finish. Puliev early on is kind of there to be hit, and then he starts to get that, dance around the outside of the cage style going and, good outside striking. But more often than not, I think this goes to the scorecards. I really do think, though, Puliev will take the final round of this and make it close. But I'm going to say Nursultan Ruziboev gets it done 29-28 over Andre Puliev. And then the next fight, we've got a sanctioned murder here. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, I'm surprised that the odds are as close as they are, and I'm saying that about a near 6-1 favorite. Abdul Rahman Yakhyev has come in and absolutely ran through everyone that he's faced. Now, the guys that he's faced in the UFC are Rafael Secora and Brenison Ribeiro. I get it. Not the best of competition. However, He is doing what he's supposed to do in those spots as a minus 1,000 or whatever he was favorites, and he's getting through them in, I think he beat Secor in less than 30 seconds, and he beat Ribeiro in the first round. Whereas Julius Walker got wobbled by Rafael Secor, did win a clear decision, but since then, he lost his UFC debut in a close fight with Alonzo Menifield. I don't know how the fuck he pulled that out of his ass. He won round 1 against Dustin Jacoby and then got starched. I think he gets starched in the first round here. I think he's got no striking defense, and Abdul Rahman Yakhiev has shown elite power and the ability to get on submissions once these guys get knocked down. But I don't think he's going to submit Julius Walker here, because after seeing him get put out pretty easily in that second round by Dustin Jacoby after just motherfuckering him for the first round, I think he is going to get walloped here by Abdul Rahman Yakhiev and get knocked out, flatlined in the first round, and probably cut from the UFC. I don't wish that on anyone. I want these guys to do well, but Abdul Rahman Yakhiev, to me, is a great, great prospect at light heavyweight. Maybe even better than that of a Navajo Sterling. Certainly has been finishing guys much more cleaner. Now, again, less level of competition, but still, I think he runs through Julius Walker here and gets the knockout in the first round. Next fight is Farman Hassanov against Eric Nolan. This is another fight I think was put together on shorter notice. We got another Azerbaijani here with Farman Hassanov going up against Eric Nolan, who everyone knows as the guy who wobbled Bicenker Sursakaya. But if you've ever watched Bicenker Sursakaya fight, you know the dude fucks around in there way too much, and he will eventually get chinned. I'm telling you now. This is kind of a close fight for me when it comes to me betting on this. It'll probably be my lowest stakes fight, but I'm going to go Hassanov here. He's with ATT. The guy is absolutely jacked, and we're overseas in Azerbaijan, so he'll probably be on some of that, Michael's secret sauce type of thing. So I think, Eric Nolan's definitely a live underdog here, but I think Hassanov eventually gets this fight to the ground and either submits him. We saw Eric Nolan tap very quickly against Sursakayev, or just rains down ground and pound. He's got very, very nasty ground and pound, which is kind of the trademark of ATT, and he certainly fits that bill. Not a high confidence pick here, but I faded a home fighter early in this card, on the first fight of the card actually, and I'm going to back the home fighter here. Not a ton of experience for Hassanov. So again, I think this could get, maybe greasy, a little bit sweaty, but I'm going to go Hassanov here to either just out-damage Eric Nolan or find a knockout with the ground and pound and get his first UFC victory. That is the featured prelim. I don't know why Abdul Rahman Yakhiev or even the Ruziboyev Puliev fight isn't, but sure. Main card opener as Abus Magomedov versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, and there's two fights on this card that have similar vibes to me, to where the guy that I think is the better fighter all around is going to lose because he simply just doesn't have that dog in him. I think Abus Magomedov is a better all-around fighter, certainly on the ground, to that of Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. But Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is going to weather storm, and he is going to keep marching forward, and I think he eventually puts the death touch on Abus Magomedov's chin and knocks him out in the second round. If he survives the grappling exchanges and doesn't get submitted, because that has been the massive weakness in Oleksiejczuk's game. Then he went to the Fighting Nerds, maybe has gotten that better. I'm not sure if he's still with the Fighting Nerds, but even if he is or isn't, I think he's made improvements in that regards, and the power side of things is certainly on the side of Oleksiejczuk here. And I think he's catching Abus Magomedov at a good time here. He's getting a little bit older. He's shown a lot of quit recently. The cardio is not good. I think if Oleksiejczuk avoids being tapped in the first round, he is going to knock out Abus Magomedov because, again, he has got that will to fight. He's got more dog in him, and he's the underdog in this fight. So I'm going to back him here. So give me Mikhail Oleksiejczuk by second round knockout. Next fight, Bruno Ferreira and Ikram Aliskerov. Bruno Ferreira is a guy that I've always thought was a little bit overrated when he was kind of on his run. He's known for knocking out Gregory Robocop in his debut in the first round. Well, in his last fight in that rematch, he got starched in the first round because Robocop looked like he was actually taking that fight seriously. And the guys that Bruno Ferreira was beating, Arman Petrosian, the ghost of Marvin Vettori, I really don't think he was as good as others were making him out to be. Also wins over Dustin Stoltzfus and Phil Hawes, Jackson McVeigh. Listen, He's got one-shot knockout power for sure, and he's definitely dangerous. But Ikram Aliskerov is a guy who I think 2 fights into his UFC career was thrown into a main event against Robert Whittaker. The guys he has lost to in his career are Khamzat Chimaev in Brave and Robert Whittaker in the UFC. I don't think Ikram Aliskerov is going to be anything special at middleweight. He might be a top 10 guy, maybe even, top 5. But I think he's way more skilled here than Bruno Ferreira. And again, Bruno Ferreira has shown the ability to get chin too. Both of these guys have. So certainly whoever you're betting on, you're kind of on the edge of your seat waiting for that one shot to come. But I do think Ikram Aliskerov, if he can get his wrestling going like he did against Jung Young Park, which I think was a very impressive way to win and kind of dominate that decision, I think he's going to be able to ground and pound Bruno Ferreira into a TKO loss because, again, I think Ferreira is a little bit chinny, and we just saw him get absolutely flatlined, albeit by RoboCop, in his last fight. But even before that, Bruno Ferreira was losing by knockout. 2 of his 3 losses, actually all 3 of his losses are by finish. This guy has never lost a decision, right? Because most of his fights are ending inside the distance. He's only won 1 decision in his entire career. Every other fight has ended by finish. I think he gets finished here by the much better all-around fighter in Ikram Aliskerov. Because, again, both of these guys I can't really trust. Both of them I think are a little bit chinny. But I think Ikram Aliskerov, skill for skill, is way, way better than that of Bruno Ferreira. So give me Ikram Aliskerov. I'm going to say second round knockout. I was thinking about submission, but I'm going to go knockout. Next fight is Asu Almabayev and Charles Johnson. Again, this fight is on paper should be an easy pick, right? Asu Almabayev is the much better wrestler, is younger, right? But Charles Johnson obviously has those wins, the wins that have aged like fine wine. If you want to be a champion at flyweight, get knocked out by Charles Johnson. Joshua Van is now champion. Loner Kavanaugh, I think, could be a future champion, right? So definitely, especially with Almabayev, we've seen him knocked out before. He got TKO by Manel Kopp. Charles Johnson is going to be live here, and he's got decent takedown defense, but I really don't think he has not been looking good in his last couple fights. He got knocked out standing by Alex Perez 2 fights ago, and then the last fight was a razor-close split decision against Bruno Silva. So I really don't think Charles Johnson is on the upswing in his career. With these new meta AI rankings, fucking Kevin Borjas is over him. How is Charles Johnson not a top 5 guy when he has knockout wins over Loner Kavanaugh and the champion? I don't understand that, but also Almabayev, I just think he's got more reliability here, whereas Charles Johnson, he kind of waits around to start fighting, and then he comes on late. Before he knocked out Loner Kavanaugh, he was getting pieced up. Had he not won that fight and had that split decision gone the other way against Bruno Silva, he'd be on, a 3-4 fight losing streak? He also lost to Ramazan Timarov. So Asu Almabayev, not a huge threat on the feet, but I do think he's going to get some takedowns going. If he does get 1 takedown, I think he'll be able to hold down Charles Johnson. It might take a couple attempts, but eventually I think this fight gets to the floor, and Asu Almabayev is going to be able to hold him down there, hunt for some submissions, but ultimately I think he's going to win a decision here. Close, 29-28. I think Charles Johnson will accrue some damage and maybe win some moments to keep it close, but I'm going to go Asu Almabayev by decision. Featured bout, the Azerbaijani Nassim Sadikov against Mataus Camilo. Now, skill for skill, I think Camilo is better, similar to Abus Magomedov and Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, but Nassim Sadikov is just an absolute fucking dog. I know he didn't look great in his last bout against Faresian, but before that against Nicholas Mota, a lot of other refs might have stopped that fight when Mota had Nassim Sadikov seemingly down and out of there, and Sadikov came back, stayed in Mota's face, and kept firing, and eventually found the knockout for himself. And he's going up against Camilo here, who we have seen doesn't exactly have a ton of heart, man. Against Gabe Green, had some submission attempts early. Once he didn't lock those in, it kind of just seemed like he was like, all right, I can't beat this guy. And Gabe Green ends up submitting him. I think Nassim Sadikov is going to take the fight to Mataus Camilo here. I think Camilo could look good early, maybe win that first round, but Nassim Sadikov is just going to keep the pressure on, stay in his face, and I think he's actually going to land the knockout in this second round just by keeping the pressure on, volume, landing big shots, and I think we'll see Camilo quit here in that second, maybe early third round to where he doesn't even want to get off the stool for the final 5 minutes. So give me the home fighter here, Nassim Sadikov, to just outdog Mateusz Camilo and find kind of a volume-based attritional style TKO here in the second round. Co-main event, we got Michel Pereira against Shar Bullet. I think Shar Bullet's the obvious pick here. Michel Pereira got starched by Kyle Daukaus a couple fights ago. Before that, looked absolutely horrible against a known gasser and quitter, Abus Magomedov. And before that, had his soul taken by the likes of Fluffy Hernandez. So Michel Pereira, big downtrend in his career, and Shar Bullet, I think, is just going to piece him up here. Also, Michel Pereira should have lost his last fight, a split decision against Zach Reese. I don't know how the home judges, and even just watching that fight, didn't give that to Zach Reese. It was close, but I thought Zach Reese won. That was the first breakdown on my channel, or first card that we broke down, and I had Zachary Reese as a dog. So a little bit of salt there, but I think Shar Bullet is just going to piece up Michel Pereira here. I really don't think Pereira's going to have anything for him. Shar Bullet, though, doesn't really finish a lot of fights, so, you know, Pereira might have some moments here staying in the fight, but I think Magomedov finds a late finish here. I'm definitely going to look at like a Shar Bullet round 3 knockout prop, but Shar Bullet should style here. You know, you got to enjoy watching this guy fight because I don't think he can fight in the States because of visa stuff. So, you know, the Pirate here, I think he gets it done either 30-27 or finds a late TKO in the third round. Really, I don't see how you can make a case for Michel Pereira in this fight. I think Shar styles and wins all day here. And then the main event, this should be violence guaranteed. The now unranked Rafael Fiziev due to those new rankings. And Manuel Torres. It's kind of weird because Manuel Torres was looking like this was his step up. He was fighting up in the rankings, and now, based on these new meta rankings, which I'm sure you guys have seen videos about that, and especially there's some good things about it. I think they got some divisions really right, and there's some good aspects like Yair's out of the rankings. You know, guys that are inactive have dropped off in other divisions too. But then there's other divisions like flyweight that make actually no sense. But this video is not about that. Here in the main event, I think Manuel Torres chins Rafael Fiziev, who we have seen kind of be a bit of a chinny mister recently. You know, he's recently just got knocked out by Mauricio Hufi. Not really any sweat off your back, but even in his debut, he got knocked out. And Manuel Torres is just a buzzsaw coming out. I mean, this dude has never seen a third round, I don't think, in his entire, you know, career. I could be wrong with that. I want to say he lost a fight by decision on the regional scene, but this is a dude, you look at his record in the UFC, it is first round everywhere. And it's him winning in the first round for the most part, besides against Ignacio Bahamondes, which is a common opponent, a guy that Rafael Fiziev beat. So I think Rafael Fiziev is definitely live here. And as far as the big fight experience, definitely on the side of Fiziev, but I think he's chinny. I don't think he should be at lightweight. I think he should be down at featherweight. Manuel Torres, I think, is going to be way bigger, way more dangerous. You know, Rafael Fiziev, as far as the technical striking with his Muay Thai style, is definitely going to be better, but I don't think he's nearly as dangerous as Manuel Torres. The only way I see him finishing or winning this fight is if Manuel Torres gasses out, because we just don't know how the cardio is going to hold up if he gets past the first round. And that's not really a knock on him because he just simply hasn't been past the first round. So we don't know. His cardio could be elite. I doubt it is, but you just never know until you see it. However, I don't think this fight's going to get past the first 7.5 minutes because I think Manuel Torres is going to find the kill shot in Rafael Fiziev and knock him out on his home soil. I like Rafael Fiziev, but I think this dude badly needs to go down to featherweight. He's still got time in his career. Maybe another knockout here sends him down a weight class, and hopefully he can get on a run there at featherweight. And Manuel Torres gets a knockout, what should have been a higher ranked opponent. But even if, despite of Fiziev's ranking now or lack thereof, I think a knockout win here, especially if it's early, like it would likely be if he is getting a knockout, would vault him into the top 10 and some pretty exciting matchups in the future. All right, so that's going to be my picks for UFC Baku. I'm really excited for this card. You know, being able to wake up early, but not too early to watch it should be fun. Here's all my picks ranked by confidence. And I'll do exactly like what I did for UFC Vegas 119. No betting breakdown, but when I do my recap, I'll give all my betting results as well as screenshots of slips and all that good stuff. So hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you guys enjoy the fights on Saturday morning, and I'll see you guys next time when we do our recap. Goodbye.